Some days, self-inquiry feels natural. You turn attention toward the sense of I, and there is a quiet simplicity to it. You do not have to force much. You can feel the difference between thoughts and the one who is aware of thoughts. Other days it feels almost impossible. The mind is busy, the body is restless, emotions are louder, and the question, "Who am I?" feels like it is bouncing off a wall. So what is happening? Are you losing progress? Are you doing something wrong? Or does self-inquiry simply depend on mood? The answer is more practical than that. Self-inquiry feels easier on some days because the mind, body, and emotions are not always in the same condition. But the practice itself is not about creating a perfect condition. It is about learning how to return to the sense of I in whatever condition is present. That is the key point. The goal is not to have a calm day every day. The goal is to recognize that even on a difficult day, the one who says, "This is difficult," can still be noticed. Many people misunderstand this. They think a good self-inquiry session means the mind becomes quiet, peaceful, spacious, or blank. So when that happens, they feel encouraged. But when the mind is noisy, they think the practice has failed. This creates a hidden trap. You begin measuring self-inquiry by the weather of the mind. Calm mind equals success. Busy mind equals failure. But Ramana Maharshi's self-inquiry does not depend on having a quiet mind first. It points you back to the one to whom the busy mind appears. So when the mind is calm, inquiry may feel easier. But when the mind is not calm, inquiry may actually become more revealing. Why? Because the sense of me becomes more obvious when it is reacting. When there is anxiety, there is often a strong feeling of "I am anxious." When there is frustration, there is "I am frustrated." When there is tiredness, there is "I cannot do this today." That I is exactly where the practice begins. The problem is that on difficult days, we usually get pulled into the content. We ask, "Why am I anxious? How do I fix this feeling? Why was I better yesterday?" These may be useful questions in ordinary life, but they are not self-inquiry. Self-inquiry asks something more direct. To whom does this anxiety appear? To whom does this tiredness appear? Who is the one saying, "I cannot do this today"? Not as a mechanical mantra, not as a mental puzzle, but as a turn of attention. Here is a simple example. You sit down to practice and immediately notice anxiety about something at work. The usual response is to think through the problem or to try pushing the feeling aside. Self-inquiry does neither. Instead, you pause and ask, "To whom does this anxiety appear?" You are not analyzing the anxiety. You are turning attention toward the one who is experiencing it, the background sense of me that the anxiety is happening to. Even a brief moment of that turning is already the practice. You are not trying to answer with a concept. You are turning toward the felt sense of the one experiencing all of this. That is why difficult days do not have to be wasted. They show you where identification is strongest. On easy days, the mind may be quiet enough that attention naturally rests closer to the source. But on difficult days, the ego sense is often more visible. It is louder. It gives you something very clear to trace back. So instead of thinking, "Today is bad for self-inquiry," you can think, "Today, the I is showing itself more strongly." That changes the whole practice. Suppose you sit for self-inquiry and immediately feel restless. The usual mistake is to fight the restlessness. You try to push it away so you can return to inquiry. But that creates two problems. First, you make restlessness into an enemy. Second, you strengthen the one who is trying to control experience. Instead, notice the simple fact: restlessness is being experienced. Then ask gently, to whom is this restlessness appearing? Do not rush into words. Let attention move from the feeling itself to the one who knows the feeling. You may feel a subtle sense of me in the background, not a clear object, not a thought you can hold, more like the basic sense, I am here, this is happening to me. Stay with that. That is already closer to self-inquiry than trying to force the mind into silence. Now suppose another day feels peaceful. Thoughts are fewer, the body is relaxed, the sense of I feels easier to notice. That is fine too. Use that condition, but do not cling to it. A peaceful day is not proof that you are advanced. A difficult day is not proof that you have gone backwards. They are just different surface conditions. The deeper question is always the same. What is aware of this condition? This is where many beginners get discouraged. They have one good experience and then spend the next week trying to recreate it. They remember, last Tuesday I felt still. I could feel awareness clearly. Self-inquiry made sense. Then the next session is messy, and they think, what happened? I lost it. But maybe you did not lose anything. Maybe you only became attached to yesterday's state. Self-inquiry is not about reproducing a state. It is about turning back toward the source of the one who wants the state. When the mind says, I want the calm feeling back, that is not a problem. It is material for inquiry. Who wants it back? When the mind says, I was better yesterday, ask, who is comparing? When the mind says, this is not working, ask, to whom does that thought appear? The mind always moves outward into objects, thoughts, emotions, memories, plans, even ideas about awareness. Self-inquiry reverses that movement. Instead of following the thought, you notice the one to whom the thought appears. That reversal may feel smooth some days and clumsy other days. That is normal. Your nervous system, sleep, food, stress, work, emotional residues, and even the amount of screen time you had that day can all affect how easy the practice feels. There is no need to make this mystical. If you slept badly, drank too much coffee, or argued with someone, the mind may be more scattered. That does not mean the self is absent. It means the mind is noisier. On those days, simplify the practice. Do not try to hold a deep, subtle inquiry for a long time. Start with something very direct. Notice, I am aware. Then ask, what is this I? Then rest for a moment, not in an answer, but in the sense of being. If the mind pulls you away 10 seconds later, that is fine. Return again. Short returns are better than long struggle. On difficult days, do not turn self-inquiry into a performance. You do not need a heroic session. You need sincerity. A few honest returns to the sense of I are more valuable than 20 minutes of mental wrestling. Some days the best practice is very simple. Pause. Notice the feeling of being me. Trace that feeling inward as far as you can without strain. Then rest. If thoughts come, ask to whom they appear. If emotions come, ask who is aware of them. If dullness comes, notice who knows the dullness. Even dullness is known. Even confusion is known. Even the thought, I cannot inquire today, is known. So the doorway is still there. The doorway is not always pleasant, but it is always present. There is another reason self-inquiry feels easier some days. Some days there is less resistance to not knowing. The mind wants something clear, solid, and repeatable. It wants to say, I found it. This is the self. But the true subject cannot be turned into an object. So when the mind is humble and open, inquiry feels easier. You are more willing to rest without grabbing an answer. But when the mind is impatient, it keeps asking, what am I supposed to find? Why don't I feel anything? Is this it? Am I doing it right? That impatience becomes the obstacle. But even then, you can inquire. Who is impatient? Who wants confirmation? Who wants a spiritual result? Every obstacle points back to the same place. That is why self-inquiry is so direct. Nothing has to be thrown away. Every thought, feeling, doubt, and resistance can become a pointer back to the one who experiences it. There is one important warning here. Do not use self-inquiry to avoid dealing with life. If you are exhausted, rest. If you are emotionally overwhelmed, slow down. If the body needs care, care for the body. Self-inquiry is not a way to pretend human life does not matter. It is a way to stop mistaking every passing state for what you are. So, on difficult days, be practical. Reduce the pressure. Make the inquiry lighter, shorter, and more frequent. Instead of one long session where you battle the mind, try several small moments during the day. Before opening your phone, pause and notice, I am. Before reacting in a conversation, notice, to whom is this reaction appearing? Before sleep, instead of reviewing the whole day, gently ask, who is aware of this tiredness? This turns daily life into the practice. And this is often more realistic than waiting for perfect meditation conditions. Self-inquiry becomes stable, not because every day feels the same, but because you stop depending on the day being a certain way. Easy day, return to the I. Difficult day, return to the I. Peaceful mind, return to the I. Busy mind, return to the I. That consistency matters more than the quality of the session. Over time, you may notice something subtle. The surface still changes. Some days are clear. Some days are messy. Some days inquiry feels alive. Some days it feels flat. But the knowing of those states is unchanged. The mind says, today is different, but something knows that difference. That knowing is closer to what self-inquiry is pointing toward than any temporary experience. So the next time self-inquiry feels harder than usual, do not immediately conclude that something has gone wrong. Ask a better question. What exactly is making it feel hard? Is it restlessness, tiredness, emotional heaviness, the desire to repeat a previous experience? Then ask, to whom is this appearing? And instead of trying to fix the whole mind, return to the one who says, this is my problem. Some days self-inquiry feels easier because the mind is quieter. Some days it feels harder because identification is stronger. But both conditions can be used. The easy day teaches you how natural the return can be. The difficult day teaches you not to depend on ease. Because real practice begins when you stop waiting for the perfect inner weather. You return now, with this mind, with this mood, with this body, with this exact experience. And you ask, not mechanically, but sincerely, who is aware of this? If this video helped, watch my next video, Why You Can't Find the Gap Between Thoughts. It explains a mistake that frustrates many people in self-inquiry and shows why looking for a gap can actually keep attention stuck in the mind. The link is in the description.